It's a new edition of the Bigfoot Journal, your twice-monthly Bigfoot news update. What happened and what's ahead in Bigfoot research and news, only on the Untold Radio Network. The Bigfoot Journal is now. With your host, Mike Luci.
And we're back. What's going on, everyone? Thanks for tuning in to episode 17 of the Bigfoot Journal, your twice-monthly review of what happened and what's ahead in the Bigfoot world. We're back at it after taking a few weeks off, doing some travel, and launching the premiere of our new series, Deep Searches, so let's get things rolling. If it's your first time watching, let me tell you how this works. We sweep the internet twice a month, highlight the top Bigfoot reports and news stories, and share our findings in a fast-paced 30-minute time frame. Here are this episode's top stories. Some researchers believe that Bigfoot sightings are on the rise in and around urban and suburban areas. But what does the data say? Our lead story dives into the numbers to see if this is in fact the case. You might be surprised by our findings. This episode's report roundup has some pretty compelling encounters on deck, including one sighting that allegedly comes from a member of the royal family. And this episode's You Decide looks at some resurfaced footage from Colorado with a sequence of events involving cow moos, short films, and some lesser seen parts of the body. As you probably know, the news doesn't stop in the Bigfoot world, so we're picking up where we left off. Let's bring you up to speed. Episode 17 starts now.
Bigfoot in history is now.
So to kick things off, our lead story is examining a peculiar trend in recent Bigfoot sightings. Are they on the rise in urban and suburban areas? It was something this recent article from a site called The News Review briefly touched on while discussing Bigfoot's role in our need for mystery and fanaticism, which we'll cover more in our next segment. The article mentions that roughly half of Bigfoot sightings seem to occur in and around metropolitan areas. So I wanted to see what the data shows, and my findings, they weren't quite what I expected. Using aggregated data from the BFRO public database, I tallied every Class A report from the lower 48 states, plus Alaska, since the year 2000. I counted how many Class A reports happened from 2000 to 2013 and 2014 to 2025 to see if metropolitan counties saw a relative increase of sightings in recent years. With urban and suburban counties falling under the metropolitan category, they qualified by meeting one of two requirements: having population densities greater than 500 people per square mile, or total populations above 400,000 people. To clarify, I only wanted to focus on states with both metropolitan and rural counties, so some states that had no qualifying metropolitan counties were excluded from this data dive. Based on this criteria, there was only a slight uptick in nationwide sightings among what this study considered metropolitan counties since 2014. Only 17.96% of Class A reports from 2000 to 2013 were in metropolitan counties, while 19.65% happened in them since 2014. That translates to a 9.4% increase. States with notable spikes of sightings in metropolitan counties included Texas, Arkansas, and Florida, while states with the biggest declines were Virginia, Georgia, and Washington State. However, the state-by-state metrics only provide a slight glimpse of the bigger picture. So, using factors like population, along with geographic and environmental terrain, I divided them into 8 regions: the Northeast, Appalachians, Great Lakes, Southeast, Midwest, Southwest, Rocky Mountains, and the Northwest. Since 2014, regions with the largest increases of Class A reports in metropolitan counties were the Southwest, the Rocky Mountains, and the Midwest. As you can see, these regions are adjacent to each other and primarily span across most of the western US, with all 3 regions showing an average increase of 127.18% in metropolitan counties since 2014. Conversely, regions with the biggest declines were the Great Lakes, the Northwest, and Southeast. I took things a step further and looked at states with the highest and densest populations, along with states that saw the largest relative and cumulative population growth since the year 2000. All four of these categories only saw very small changes among Class A reports in what the study considers metropolitan counties since 2014. In fact, 8 of the 10 most populated U.S. states, plus all 10 of the 10 most densely populated states, were in regions that saw declines or no changes. Now, here's the kicker. If we look at those 10 states with the highest rate of relative population growth since the year 2000, 6 of them are in regions with the 3 biggest increases of metropolitan Class A reports since 2014: the Southwest, Rocky Mountains, and the Midwest. So if this particular aspect is any indication, then it seems to highlight 2 major details. First, the static or small changes in high or densely populated states could signal that any squatches in these regions appear to be well adapted at avoiding humans. Perhaps they either know to stay in the more remote parts of these areas, or develop near foolproof capabilities at avoiding detection even when moving through areas frequented by humans. Although most of them have vast land areas and low population densities, any potential Bigfoot populations in states with high population growth could still be acclimating to human encroachment. And if that's the case, then my guess is these recent spikes will probably decrease and eventually plateau as any local Sasquatch populations adjust accordingly or relocate to more remote areas. So, to bring things full circle, are Bigfoot sightings on the rise in metropolitan areas? Well, based on the findings from this data dive, the answer appears to be both yes and no. They seem to be increasing in areas that saw large spikes of relative population growth, but are also holding steady or slightly decreasing in more populated parts of the US. So if Bigfoot is real, then these findings could signal that squatches are highly efficient at eventually adapting to human encroachment. And if that's the case, if you live in one of these regions where sightings are on the rise in metropolitan counties, you should still keep an eye out before that window potentially closes.
Pop culture news is now.
For thousands of years, mankind has had a deep fascination with the unknown. Our enthusiasm and belief in these constructs, which challenge the personal and societal fringes of reality, is still live and well. But even in this day and age, when we're led to believe that the most of these mysteries have plausible explanations, it still begs the question, what drives our need to believe? As Mike previously mentioned, our lead story stemmed from an article which uses Bigfoot as a focal talking point to answer this thought-provoking question. We'll look at how it explores this topic in greater detail, but most importantly, why Bigfoot underlies our yearning to find reality in legend and mystery. Titled, Bigfoot and Our Need to Believe. The article was recently published on a site called News Review. The author, Sarah Mallow, has been researching encounters with strange creatures whose existence cannot be scientifically proven. Sarah explicitly states that she's not interested in whether Bigfoot is scientifically verifiable, but instead she's trying to understand its history and social context, which she believes highlights a cultural and psychological infatuation with unexplained phenomena in the American wilderness. The article emphasizes that belief in creatures like Bigfoot is less about scientific proof, but reflects a craving we have in the magic of an untamed wilderness. It's essentially saying that Bigfoot represents an ancient and primal human instinct that hasn't yet been lost. In layman's terms, it depicts Bigfoot as our desire for a vast landscape to exist that still contains hidden and undiscovered mysteries. The article draws a connection to Chaucer's 14th century Wife of Bath's story from his book, The Canterbury Tales. It argues that this story illustrates how longing for a world full of magical creatures isn't new, but a recurring human desire for enchantment. And in modern times, Bigfoot is among its most popular contemporary manifestations. While the article stresses that we should take them with a grain of salt, it believes that stories and reports of Bigfoot encounters allow us to engage in a shared narrative, offering a sense of wonder, community, and identity. To examine this particular aspect, Malo gathered sightings published on the BFRO public database since 2024. Out of the 37 reports she collected, about half of them occurred in metropolitan counties. Moreover, the article mentions a 2022 civic science survey, which showed a slight uptick in Americans who believed in Bigfoot. It found that 13% of Americans believed in the creature, up from 11% in 2020. About 14% of respondents who believed in Bigfoot identified as rural, while 13% considered themselves as metropolitan residents. While noting how self-reported data isn't really a scientifically acceptable way of monitoring the creature's whereabouts, the article says that this data shows that belief in Bigfoot isn't exclusive to the rural folklore. It spans across urban and suburban populations, shedding light on a broad cultural need for believing in the unexplained that's shared across a broad spectrum of demographics. As Malo's article mentions, no matter how you look at it, the Bigfoot question is strange. And she believes it boils down to one of two answers. Either it actually exists and the BFRO reports are documenting a material phenomena, or Bigfoot isn't real, which seems to be the strangest answer, meaning that people across North America appear to be having collective delusions about a half-man, half-ape creature. The article strongly displays our undying willingness to believe our world still holds a degree of mystery that cannot or has yet to be scientifically explained.
Bigfoot in Sciences Now.
It's no secret that great ape habitats are being impacted by human expansion. Although many species are showing signs of adapting to these disruptions, they're coming with positive and negative consequences. One recent study highlighted some of the biggest adjustments they're making, which have striking similarities to certain details commonly described in Bigfoot reports. We'll look at how great ape species are adjusting to human activity, why they closely resemble reported Sasquatch behavior, and what these similarities could tell us about their potential existence. A recent article published on a site called The Good Men Project covered a study that examined the behavioral responses of great apes to human encroachment. The paper was published earlier this year in the publication Springer Nature Link, which analyzed nearly 2,500 studies on the great ape behaviors in response to human interference. It determined that human activities like mining, agriculture, urbanization, along with damming and logging, pose the greatest threats to great ape habitats. The most frequent responses of great apes were crop foraging, choosing different nesting locations, or how often they reused the nests, and using man-made paths for easy travel. While these adjustments appear to help with their short-term survival, they can also make great apes vulnerable in the long term. Changes in nesting patterns didn't appear to result in negative outcomes. It actually showed how well they could adapt. However, behaviors like crop foraging and traveling on man-made paths, which resulted in human encounters, led to outcomes like stress, injury, and death. The study did find that these adaptive behaviors and consequences varied depending on species and location. In some cases, gorillas, for example, avoided log forests almost entirely, but in other instances, they would visit these affected areas to take advantage of vegetation that developed after they were logged. In some areas, chimps and orangutans that foraged weren't viewed as pests, especially where other animals posed greater threats to the crops. But in other cases, they were still feared, resulting in them being chased, trapped, or killed. Researchers said these adaptive behaviors are essential in identifying major concerns, their impacts on great ape populations, or if they move to new habitats. However, they ruled out the possibility of achieving both long-term conservation and large-scale industrial operations. From a Bigfoot perspective, the adaptations this study covered draw some strong parallels to alleged Bigfoot behavior commonly described in stories and reports. Let's start with foraging. There are several accounts that claim Squatches raid crops like apples and berries, steal cattle, and even dumpster dive. Like great apes, it could show that these creatures have also adapted to human disruptions by utilizing some of them as food sources. More often than not, animals like to use paths with the least resistance, so it's not surprising that great apes are being observed traveling on man-made roads and paths. This is another common detail found in many Bigfoot reports and theories. As we mentioned in previous segments, the vast majority of Class A reports, over 60% in many cases, happen along roadways. Many researchers also believe that Squatches use power, gas, and railroad lines as discrete travel routes, which give them enough cover to avoid detection. Great ape nesting could also give some credence to the belief that Squatches also make similar bedding. These potential sites have been discovered in the Pacific Northwest and other locations across North America, but seem to be exceptionally rare finds. If that's the case, then perhaps Squatches have adapted to finding nesting sites that are extremely difficult or impossible for humans to find or access. If they're real, then this study's findings, plus their alleged parallels to reported Bigfoot behaviors and theories, also align with the takeaways from our lead story. It might show that these creatures are finding favorable ways of adapting to human activity while maintaining their hidden existences in the more populated areas across North America. These reported similarities might also reinforce the belief that Squatches are some kind of undiscovered primate and underscore their intelligence level, which would allow them to exercise these adaptations with great efficiency.
Report Roundup is now.
All right, this is our Report Roundup. If they're out there, it's our parlor show that updates you on the latest Bigfoot reports from major databases and across the internet. We've got sightings coming out of Tennessee, Idaho, plus a royal Bigfoot sighting. And we're looking at some old footage from Colorado. In this episode's You Decide. This first report from the Bigfoot Mapping Project describes one witness's alleged sighting at their home in northern Tennessee. It happened around 3 a.m. on July 1st, 2015. The witness says a Bigfoot-like creature was watching them through their kitchen window, which was 8 feet off the ground. The report provides a thorough description, claiming the figure had strawberry blonde hair with silverish-gray tips, a prominent brow ridge, along with human-like nose and large mouth with thick lips. They allegedly heard the figure talking on their front porch, describing its voice as very deep and Japanese-sounding, which makes you think of the so-called samurai chatter. Additional details claim that patio furniture and other objects were thrown around their yard, family pets disappearing, and the side of their house getting slapped.
A recent BFRO report describes one witness's detailed sighting that allegedly occurred in western Idaho. The witness says their sighting happened in October 2024 while paddleboarding with his wife. According to the witness, he stopped at a sandbar where he allegedly spotted two dark figures across the river at a distance of about 70 yards. He said they looked enormous, and the figures stood motionless alongside each other as they appeared to watch him from the woods. The witness described them as having arms that hung down to their knees, broad shoulders, long fur, along with faces that had gorilla and Neanderthal-like features. In his follow-up report, Matt Moneymaker believed the witness was credible and mentioned multiple Class B reports happening in the same area. So Bigfoot reports that come out of places like the UK, they're pretty hard for some people to digest. But get a load of this one. Apparently, the late Prince Philip claimed to have a Bigfoot sighting of his own. The story comes from a gentleman named Mark Lee, who's described as a leading UFOologist in the UK, and claims he received this information from a Buckingham Palace source. According to the story, Prince Philip, also known as the Duke of Edinburgh, reportedly spotted what he believed was a Bigfoot-like creature while staying at Balmoral Castle in the 1970s. Both Prince Philip and Queen Elizabeth reportedly believed in Bigfoot, a claim that was previously revealed by Flash Gordon actor Brian Blessed. The royal couple even wanted to meet a trapper named Albert Osman, who claimed he was kidnapped by a group of the creatures in Venezuela. Lee says he plans on further investigating Prince Philip's story. He also noted how Bigfoot reports come out of multiple locations in the UK, and specifically mention areas like Box Hill.
This recent story posted on the Bigfoot subreddit describes one hiker's alleged encounter in northern Georgia. The OP says the story comes from their dad's friend, who they referred to as JC. According to the OP, JC's sighting happened 3 summers ago near Amicolia Falls. While sleeping in his tent, JC said he was awoken by nearby sounds of grunting and digging. When JC opened his tent's flap, he shined his flashlight to see what was making the sounds, and claims he saw a hairy man leaning over a latrine he dug. JC says the creature was apparently eating his excrement from the hole. The creature quickly fled and released a blood-curdling scream that JC said made his ears ring. He said the creature was 6 to 7 feet tall, covered in black hair, had a wide nose and a big scar across its chest. The OP says JC never recovered from his reported encounter and even quit hiking. Up next is the You Decide part of our roundup, where we break down a notable photo, video, or other piece of potential Bigfoot evidence. Our goal here is to lay out all the facts and details so that we can help you decide if it's the real deal. Here's Mike with this episode's breakdown.
All right, so we're looking at a particularly interesting video on this episode's You Decide. It dates back to 2009, but was recently brought back to light on the Bigfoot subreddit. This recent post provides links to what it describes as old footage on YouTube that the OP says looks just like Patty. This post contains 2 links from a channel called Sasquatch Alliance. One shows the original footage, the other is an enhanced version. Both videos were posted on March 29, 2009. Titled Yellow Top Bigfoot, the original video is about 25 seconds. You get very brief glimpses of a dark-colored figure that admittedly looks pretty convincing at first glance. You see the figure twice, at the 2 to 3 second mark, and again around 16 to 17 seconds, where it appears to make a low grunt. All the description says is this footage was filmed in Colorado. The enhanced version is 37 seconds. It looks to have been magnified and slowed, which provides a clearer, longer look at the figure. One particular detail that caught my eye was the figure's alleged grunt. To me, it sounded eerily similar to the kind of sound a cow would make. So I compared it to some cow sounds, and I want to show you this clip from one video I found. Make of that what you will, I just thought it was something worth mentioning. Anyway, I did some digging and found the original source of this footage. The video actually comes from a channel called YT Sightings. The channel was created on February 21st, 2009. Its description reads, "Finally, the true story behind the Yellow Top Bigfoot video is revealed. Yellow Top is a new short film by Noah Sedana." It also links to a website called Yellow Top Sightings, which appears to no longer be working. The channel has 4 videos that were posted between February 2009 and March 2010. The first video's description claims this footage was taken in July 2008 outside of Rocky Mountain National Park. The second video was posted in March 2009.
So here's that same zoomed in footage, this time at half speed.
It shows some higher quality zoomed in versions of the footage at different speeds with commentary. The narrator clarifies they were a bit sensationalist about this footage at first and admits it could very well show someone in a suit. So their brief analysis definitely comes off as objective. The third video is where things take a turn. It was posted on June 13th, 2009, and is titled Yellow Top Bigfoot Hoax Revealed.
With those of you who are interested in what has been dubbed by some as the Yellow Top Bigfoot. So back in March, I posted what I believed to be footage of this creature.
In this video, the narrator, who I presume was likely Noah Sedano, claims he and a friend took the footage. The narrator says he got in touch with a gentleman who also saw the same creature in July 2008 and took this grainy cell phone footage. The video also features an excerpt from the phone interview that the narrator had with this witness.
We saw it for, I don't know, maybe 30 seconds. And my first response was, Jesus, that was a real animal. Yeah, me too.
I won't play it fully since the interview discusses some intimate parts of the figure's body, and I'm not trying to rub the YouTube algorithm the wrong way. But to sum it up, the witness basically mentions how the creature's manhood, they realized, looked, goodness, how do I put this lightly? Like, you know, like it was circumcised, if you catch my drift. So based on this detail, which the narrator says he also noticed during their alleged sighting, he believes it's enough to rule this footage as a hoax. The channel's last video was posted on March 28th, 2010. It's a trailer for a short film by Sedano titled Yellow Top, and claims to tell the true story behind the Yellow Top Bigfoot videos. It says the film is about a man who is unable to function in society and decides to live in the forest as a Bigfoot. There's definitely a lot of missing pieces to this story, but based on the limited information available, I'd say we can sum it up to one of two probable outcomes. Either the footage was entirely staged to promote Sedano's film, or it was generally inspired by his alleged sighting, regardless of what it shows. Hopefully this breakdown provided enough information to help you decide if the Yellow Top Bigfoot video is a hoax, misidentification, or the real deal. If you have any additional information about this video or notice something I might have overlooked, don't hesitate to share. Otherwise, that about does it for this episode's Report Roundup. Remember, if they're out there, you'll hear about them, and who knows? Maybe the next one happens somewhere near you.
Bigfoot Spotlight is now.
What's going on, everyone? We're back at it for another Bigfoot Spotlight, the part of our show where we highlight a few recent Bigfoot live streams, films, and events. In this episode, with conference season in full swing, we're going to spotlight 3 upcoming conferences and 1 documentary that I thought was pretty cool. So here we go. Starting us off, we're spotlighting a recent episode from Mike Wanders titled Alone Overnight on Vancouver Island. I was intrigued by this documentary because I probably won't ever camp alone, especially on a remote island off the coast of Canada or Alaska. So I live vicariously through the people that do.
I reached out to the right people who connected me with local people here in Vancouver Island, told me what to look for, told me where to go, told me who to talk to.
In this episode, Mike documents his 2 overnight stays on Ape Island. After doing his research and interviewing a bunch of people, he first decided to camp at Neement Lake in the Neement Valley. Mike picked this location because he spoke to a witness, Cameron, who had a few experiences in the area.
Plus multiple other experiences. He knows a lot of people who have had their own encounters.
The second night, Mike decided on a remote cove in the Clayoquot Sound after learning about a harrowing experience there from photojournalist Sandra Jane.
He hears what sounds like big rocks or boulders being either overturned or slammed against each other. He then heard howl-like vocalizations coming from different sides of the inlet, basically like they were answering each other.
Up next, we got the 3rd annual Cryptids and Paranormal Conference happening on June 7th in Farmingdale, New Jersey. The conference goes from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m., plus an after party that starts at 6 p.m. The event is being emceed by Dana Holleran and has an impressive lineup of speakers featuring Dr. Jeff Meldrum, Dr. Myra Mayer, Ryan LeBlanc, Lyle Blackburn, and even some special guests. Tickets are required to see the speakers, but access to the vendor space and after party are totally free. I'll be attending this year's festival, so if you see me, make sure you say hi. Visit the festival's website for information on the event and to buy tickets. There's a link in the video's description. The Forest County Bigfoot Festival is happening June 6th through the 8th in Marionville, Pennsylvania. It's a weekend jam-packed with events that include a night hike, a Bigfoot hunt, town hall meeting, and 5K, just to mention a few. Mike Famelot from the show In the Shadow of Big Red Eye will be emceeing a lineup of speakers that features names like Jason Kenzie, Mary Fabian, Eric Altman, and the Mountain Monsters crew. There will be vendors, live music, and even a petting zoo, so it sounds like there's going to be something for everyone. Last but not least, I'm spotlighting the Cobble Mountain Critter Festival, hosted by the Vogel Brothers. It's happening on June 7th in Russell, Massachusetts. The event runs from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. and will be held on private property in the Berkshires of Western Massachusetts. Speakers include BFRO investigator Mike Young, Mike Trainer, the New Hampshire Bigfoot Society, along with many other researchers, investigators, and podcasters. You can find more information on general admission and even camping provisions on their website, the Cobble Mountain Critter Project.wordpress.com. And that wraps up this episode's Bigfoot Spotlight. You'll find links to everything I covered in the video's description. If there's a recent or upcoming Bigfoot livestream, film, or event you'd like me to spotlight, shoot me a message or email with the details. Mike, take us out.
All right, well, that about does it for episode 17. It's been great catching up on what happened and what's ahead in the Bigfoot world. Make sure to check out the video's description for more information on the segments we covered, and if you haven't already, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe here at Untold and the CARC. If you have questions, a story to share, or want the CARC to investigate your Bigfoot encounter, shoot us an email or drop us a line in the comments with the details. For Chuck, Chris, and Toby, I'm Mike Luci signing off. We appreciate each and every one of you for watching. Until next time.
Program is distributed by the Untold Radio Network. All rights reserved.